we have our next storyteller over here preparing a little bit. So let me just say a few kind words about him, because you very rarely hear me say kind things about him. But he is not only one of the producers of Story Salon, but he is probably one of the most supportive creative talents that we have here. We have people here that do one-person shows. We call them Story Salons in progress. And he has helped them construct, he's like the Frank Lloyd Wright of one-person shows. He will help you put together the entire show. He has doctored people's stories when they're trying to take it from here to the next level. He is one of the most prolific writers. In fact, usually if he has a free moment, you see him with pen in hand and he is writing. And he's also one of the nicest MCs that we have here. And he hosts a show that we have pretty much every month called Vertical Humor, which is a, what's that? And, oh, that's right, you're in Hot Valley Writers too. That's right. So Joseph Doherty created an online magazine called Hot Valley Writers. The new edition is out, right? And you're one of the featured people. I contribute to a internet radio show called TV Confidential, and we are going to be recording a segment with Dan Farren on August 18th. So this guy's really busy. I'm glad he could stop by. Mr. Dan Farren.
Sure, I'm talented, but I guess I'm just not cute. Huh?
You wear the little ponies.
I need a shirt with little ponies on it. That's what I need. I have 4,000 ways of electronically to do a story, and I've written them all on napkins this evening. I cry at baseball. And it's not because of the Baltimore Orioles, my beloved Baltimore Orioles, where I will be in the ground before they're ever in contention ever again. No. I'm sentimental. I am very sentimental. I cry at songs, at TV, at movies, at videos of soldiers returning from war being greeted by their pets that jump up and down and cry and enjoy. I cry at Doctor Who. Well, watch it and you'll see why, alright? I cry at stories here. That's why sometimes I hide behind the coffee cups up there. It's not just because some are good and some aren't. I really do just do that. I cry at my own stories. I know that because this is actually the second time I've tried to tell this story, because the first time I had trouble getting through it, so I changed it all around. So I had to get special dispensation from the Pope over there to do this story again. And as I said before, I cry at baseball. I love baseball. I love the pace of it. I love the fact that it's slow, that you can just go and leisurely sit and watch a game. I love the mellowness of it. I also cry at baseball movies. I cry at The Natural. I cry at 8 Men Out. And for God's sake, I need at least a good 2 hours to recover from Field of Dreams. Because who wouldn't want another chance to play catch with their father one more time? I wasn't very good. I had a yellow jaundice at birth, and I couldn't catch anything. You could throw it at me and I would miss it. And my father used to take me outside at night with the tennis ball, because that's the one thing that couldn't hurt me if it hit me in the face. And he would throw it to me, and I would catch it, and afterwards he'd like come over to me and he'd give me a big hug, and I would try to avoid being burned by his cigarette. And he would tell me I was doing a good job, and I would move along, and that's the whole thing that made it special for me, was be able to go and share baseball with my father. Now, I've met a lot of famous baseball players over the years. There is one guy, if I ever meet him, I'm going to need an ambulance standing by, because he basically is one of the few athletes that I used to pattern my entire life after. The guy is Cal Ripken Jr. of the Baltimore Orioles. For 17 years, he played every game. He didn't hit a home run in every game. He didn't do anything spectacular in every game. He wasn't, the home run leader. He wasn't the RBI leader. He just basically showed up and did the best he possibly could. And I know that when I decided like 12, 13 years ago that I wanted to basically reinforce myself to go back to doing writing, and I decided that I was going to write 1,500 words a day, 5 days a week, no matter what. what I did was I used him as a pattern, and that was the guy shows up all the time, and he just does the best he can. So every day when I sit down at my iPad with my little Bluetooth board, I have one other thing I keep with me, and that's not my phone. That was the wrong thing. There we go. Nothing worse. There it is. Okay. This is a ticket for the Minnesota Twins, April 15th, 2000. It's a general admission for the upper deck. It's against the Baltimore Orioles. And this was the game where Cal Ripken Jr. had his 3,000th hit. Oh. And a friend of mine, knows how I am, gave this to me. And we used to do this here all the time. We need to go back to it. And that is we would have totems or something that you would keep to convince you to keep writing and to move forward and move on. This is what I keep with me at all times whenever I write. And the hardest part that I have with my dad and with baseball is that area between 65 and 75, because that was the time that we used to go to the games together in Baltimore. And I can't even get through Ken Burns' baseball, because when we get to that section, I have to go all the way ahead to the late 70s because I start crying. Again, it's not out of pain, it's not out of missing my father, it's more out of joy. It's a good, really good memory. And I almost tried to do this story a while back when Harmon Killebrew passed away, because one of the hard things for me now is I remember one night being in the old Memorial Stadium and seeing Harmon Killebrew, who was this big, raw-boned, tree trunk guy, hit a home run, and he hit that thing, and they called it a frozen rope, out into the right field stands, and it looked like one of those Warner Brother cartoons, where like the ball was screaming, and the cover came off it as it went into the stands, and it hit, I never forgot this, it hit the concrete pole, and it ricocheted off into the Baltimore night. And I remember my dad sitting there going, oh my God. And he reminded him, and he told me this story on the way home about how he went to a Pittsburgh Pirates game and saw Bill Mazeroski hit one that hard. And it became something that I could share, that I shared with my father and with nobody else. So, as the years go by, I look at it now and I go, well, Harmon's gone, my dad's gone, for God's sakes, Memorial Stadium is gone. And I'm like the only thing left, it feels like, from that. But it's not a sadness, it's actually a great joy, because I think about that and I smile, and it reminds me of good things that happened. To finish up on this, the one thing that's really funny is I like to sometimes meet these players that I watched growing up. Ted Williams managing, and Brooks Robinson, and Tony Oliva, and all those great guys. And the trouble is that when I get around them and I start talking to them about baseball, I start to tear up a little bit. And I think it scares them. I think it really, really scares them. Back in the spring, I was at one of these big convention type things, and Bob Gibson of the St. Louis Cardinals was there. Now, for people who may not be as up on baseball, Bob Gibson was an amazing pitcher for the Cardinals. When I lived in Indiana, we rooted for the Cardinals because they were the closest team to Indiana. And Bob Gibson is a very serious man. So they were doing some sort of syndicated show, and he was involved with it. So I'm standing there, and I start talking to him, and I start welling up a little bit. And Bob Gibson starts looking at me like, and he finally goes, "Are you okay, man?" And I said, Mr. Gibson, I said, you know, it's such great memories of my dad and whatever. And he's like going, okay. And he has that thing, you know, when you talk to your boss and your boss is trying to act like he feels bad for you, and he just kind of goes, "That's okay. That's okay, kid. That's okay." That's what he was doing. And I was trying to do this, and he says, "I understand. A lot of us feel the same way." And then I hear a voice behind me say, "Gibby, you're holding up the line." And I turn around, and there is Reggie Jackson. And he goes, "It's okay, Reggie." He says, "This guy here, he's thinking about his dad." And he goes, "Oh," Reggie goes, "Yeah, I know the feeling. I did the whole thing too." And I started to well up again. But the trouble was, I couldn't say anything to Reggie Jackson because the only stories I had about Reggie Jackson was how much my father hated him. Just despised him, couldn't take him, you know. I thought, what do you say? "Hey, Mr. Jackson, my dad thought you were a real horse's ass." So I am here this evening to tell you that despite what the movie quote is, there is crime in baseball. And yes, I cried at that movie, League of Their Own, too. Thank you very much.